could say your name, right?
I think you can.
Travis Hunt.
That would be me.
Oh,
It's out there.
there is freedom in that.
Well, there's some freedom and there's some sadness.
Interesting. I didn't even think about that.
There is a sadness. I've had to die to what I wanted.
Wow. That's the one thing. We should start where I met you, and then we'll see that something you've been doing for a very long time has drastically changed in the 3 years that I've known you. We have some friends in the room today, which is rare but cool. And
Hi,
so
you guys.
I wanted these guys to hear your story along with everyone on the podcast. But I'll take us back to when is the fair? July?
Yes, July,
Okay.
late July,
July,
August.
3 years ago this coming July. And we're playing a concert. I am on fire for the Lord and on my way out of music, but no one knows that at the time.
Right.
But my band, they just laugh at me. They see me doing these Bible studies and reading the Bible and
Engaging with people.
talking about Bible things. And we end up at this fair, Camas Valley Fair, is that what it's called?
Nope.
No, Roseburg.
It's the Douglas County Fair.
Douglas County Fair in Roseburg, Oregon.
Yeah.
And
With Granger Smith as a headliner.
yes, we were headlining. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful place. And, the hillsides and green evergreens and hardwoods and rivers running through.
Yeah, right behind the stand.
Right
stands.
behind where the fair was. And my guitar player, Todd, comes on in that afternoon. He goes, "Hey, Granger, something you might like out here in the fair." I was like, "What?" And he goes, "There's a booth out here that says," what does it say?
Heaven or hell.
Yeah, heaven. It says heaven or hell.
Yeah, 2-question booth, they call it.
2-question booth. You might want to go check it out. And I was like, "Yes, I do." I jump up. That sounds amazing. I would love to go talk to these guys. So on my way there, I'm walking to this booth in the middle of the afternoon in this beautiful fair. And I had been doing so much work with atheists. Like the previous day, I think I was talking all day with an atheist. And I thought, I think I'm going to be an atheist today for this booth. We'll test them out a little bit. Now, whether or not this is a good thing or not, I don't know. Probably not a good thing.
You guys don't judge him.
Actually, yeah, don't judge me for it. This was a wise decision. I was working with the tools I had at the time. So I go to this booth, and they're like, "Hello, sir. How can we help you?" And I was like, "I just don't know. What are you selling?" Like, "Well, actually, we're not selling anything. We're just here to answer a simple question. Are you going to heaven or hell?" And I was like, "Neither exist. So I don't think I'm going to either one." And they're like, "Yeah, we respect your opinion. Can we ask you a few questions?" And I was like, "Is it religious garbage?" And they're like, "Let me show you some. Let me ask you a few questions, and we can get to your point and find out where you stand." This went on. I'm just throwing out everything. They were very gracious and very wise, and they had a heart for me. They loved me. It was a beautiful thing. And this went on for, in my mind, it's 30 minutes, but it was probably more like 15. And then this girl walks up, and I remember she had short hair and it was spray painted pink, and she was wearing all black. Other than that, I just
wanted to talk.
There's something about her, and I just thought, oh, like the game's over now.
Yeah,
well, she needs to talk. And so I was like, "I'm sorry, guys. Let me bring her in here." And they were like, "We're not finished with you yet." And I was like, "Seriously, guys? Like, you need to talk to her. I think she really wants to talk." And Theron, who I now know is your son, who's now a dear brother, love him to death. He was like, "I'm not finished with you yet. You guys, can you handle her? We're going outside.
Yeah.
We're going to step outside the booth."
Which means something else in your previous life, stepping outside.
Yeah.
This is a good thing to step outside.
And I went around the side of the booth, and I was like, "Brother, I'm a Christian." He goes, "I don't believe you one bit." And I said, "Don't, really?" He goes, "Tell me the gospel." And so we started walking through the book of Romans, right? And he goes, "Oh,
So you are.
okay.
Okay, you're a believer.
What in the world are you doing?" And I was like, this might have been unwise. I came over here, and I've been talking to this atheist the last few days, and you guys did great. Let me go introduce myself. one of the guys who was brand new to the booth, I think it was his first year, he was a little upset, and rightly so. He was like, what were you trying to do? And I was like, brother, you're right. I'm so sorry. I was out of line. But then Theron and I connected, and he goes, hey, let's take a walk. So we walked through the fair, and we went and looked at the stage, and the guys were kind of sound checking, and our conversations were getting deeper and deeper. And I told Theron, probably the first person outside of my family, that I said, see all this?
It's going away.
I'm leaving this.
Yeah.
And he wasn't like, what? He goes, the Lord does that thing. The Lord does such things.
Yeah, he's seen a couple of them where the Lord just radically changed people like that.
And he said, you should meet my dad one day. I think you'd really like my dad. And I was like, yeah, maybe I was not expecting you were anywhere in the vicinity. And I was like, yeah, I would like that. And he goes, okay. We exchanged numbers, and I said, let's get together tonight. Let's have dinner, and we'll have you guys backstage. And he said, yeah, I have a friend that's coming tonight, and he's not saved, but he really loves you. And I said, well, I'm gonna preach the gospel from the stage tonight. And he goes, that would be really encouraging. That'd be fantastic. Yeah. And so I get back on the bus, and then he texts me. He says, hey, Dad's here. You want to come meet him? I was like, okay.
So you had just minutes away from him and turned around and came back.
Yeah.
It was short.
Yeah, it was short time. I go down, and there you are.
And you brought someone with you.
I brought Chris. Yeah, that's right. And I met you, and I just thought, I like this guy. To me, you brought a Navy SEAL aspect to a believer. When sometimes people think of Christians as mild, we misuse the word meek all the time.
Sure,
we completely misuse it as we use meek as weak. But here you are, and you're just locked on. Your eyes are on me. You're probably going, let me see if this guy's a believer. First of all,
you want to know what I was thinking?
Yeah.
Okay, so my son had told me you were a believer. I have seen God do so many insane things. I was praying, Lord, what is this about? Who is this? What do you want? That was seriously, I'm like, okay, we got somebody who's famous in front of me, engaged. What are you doing? What do you want? That's seriously what was going through my mind. So as I was listening and we were engaging, I was trying to assess, Lord, you got your hand on this guy. I just need to know why I'm here. So that's what I was praying about. Why am I here? Why is this conversation happening? So that's what was going through my mind.
Well, everything that's going in my mind is, as I'm talking to you and you're telling me, and at the time, kind of going back to the beginning of this conversation, the world, your name doesn't exist in the world.
At this point, yeah.
Outside of your own church, really. Sure. Your name doesn't exist on purpose because you're an international missionary. I don't even like to say that because that gives people this
wrong view.
idea, this wrong view. So we'll get to that. But you're a guy that travels for very specific reasons and does pretty significant things, and you don't go for flippant reasons. It's always very calculated, and everything in my spirit was just saying, go with him.
Yeah, I heard that. I was pretty surprised at your response.
So I said, can I get your number? We exchanged numbers. And I said something, you remember it better than I did.
Oh, I remember it.
What did I say?
You said, consider me a coin in your pocket. Spend me wherever you will.
Yeah. So,
and then you remember what I said?
No.
And I think someone was with me, but I can't remember who it was. But I remember saying, don't say that to me. Those are my words. I remember, don't say, actually do not say those things to me. Because now you know what I mean. Because if somebody says that and they really mean it, I know there is a great work ahead, and it's far beyond anything we've ever imagined.
Yeah.
And so, you're like, no, I'm serious. Yeah. Use me. If the Lord has a place, use me anywhere you see fit. Just consider me a coin in your pocket.
I remember asking Theron that night, I said, is your dad serious about that? I mean, is he one of these guys that says things?
Lots of talk, yeah.
And he goes, I've never known him to say anything that actually didn't happen. I was like, okay, he's that kind of guy. Later, a few weeks go by, Theron and I connected again through the loss of a son. We both have in common the loss of a son. I'm not sure if he realized it at the time. I certainly didn't realize it with him, but we connected later and, talked for hours on the phone over several times.
Yeah.
And got closer and closer, Theron and I did. But I didn't know what was coming with you.
Neither did I.
It was only a few months.
Yeah, it's not very long.
Hey, Granger, it's Travis.
Well, first of all, that's surreal for me. I'm going to call Granger Smith. I mean, that's just so you know, that's just a little unusual. So I call you, hey, Granger.
And what I'm about to say, I have not spoken about in public at all. You and I spoke before we recorded. We think that this is probably open information now.
I think that at this point, because of what's happened through social media and actually what happened in our trip to the country, I don't know if you're going to name it, but the trip to the country we went in, I realize at this point I'm no longer hidden. And so what I have to do now needs to be done publicly, and someone else has to do the work I was doing.
Yeah.
Because you can't have a social media or an electronic footprint and do what we were doing. You can't, and it's getting harder and harder with AI. Anyway, so at this point, I think we're probably okay. I think we should keep some of the details quiet.
Yes, I'll go with like minimal details.
But we can talk about the idea of it and what happened.
So what happened, a lot of people that have been following me for a long time might remember this time when I kind of went dark and said, I'm going some places and you won't hear from me. Well, that goes back to this phone conversation, which at the time you were either T or another name that we used as a nickname.
Which we don't want to use here.
Which we won't use here.
I would rather not use that name.
I won't use that name. But Travis was not a name. Really, I didn't call you Travis for at least a year into our relationship.
Yeah.
Not because it was necessarily bad in private places. It was a habit. I didn't want to say by habit.
And you were GS.
Yes. And so he says, T at the time, says to me, and we're talking on closed, encrypted
end messaging.
We never talk on regular phone lines. He goes, can you record an album? I was like, yeah.
Yeah, I've done that.
I've done it. Yeah, I've done it for years. And you go, can you record an album outside of the studio? Yeah, sure. He goes, can you do it anywhere in the world? Yeah, sure can. I said, I actually have the equipment in my backpack almost at all times because I have a radio show. I carry it with me. And you go, okay, I have an idea. In fact, we might have continued to another time. You might have said, I'll get back to you.
Yeah.
But either way, what happened was you realized that there was a need in your ministry from the multiple facets of your ministry that you were doing with your team. You realized there was a gap in worship music for certain cultures around the world with certain languages that didn't have it.
Yeah, the great need is, and it has been missed by Western missionaries for so long, is that a lot, and you see this when you travel in the third world, a lot of the churches are singing our songs translated into their language. It's our hymns, it's our worship songs, our choruses. They're our words, the way we say things, and they're not their heart language. They're not their style. There's just no connection, but they think that's Christianity. And so we want to say these good things about God, so we must use these words and sing these songs. These are spiritual songs. And in fact, we're European, we're Western. I mean, the Messianic or Jewish worship songs are nothing like our songs. Because they have a completely different heart language and the way the music that they enjoy. And so the problem was that I personally, and I know there's a lot of people that feel this way, feel like the people should be able to sing songs to God the way they sing.
Imagine that.
That the worship would be something that they would be doing with their family and their friends, and that there's a lot of amazing songwriters out there who have just no connection to anybody. And how do we get their music to their people.
Yeah.
So when they're singing and the songs are bursting out of their mouth and their gatherings, it's their songs.
Yeah.
A new song. Revelation says they sang a new song.
Revelation 5. And you recognize that there were certain language groups that didn't have it, and certain churches that had none of their own music to sing. And
Right, zero.
that is a major gap that the Lord put on your heart to fill. And somehow that coin was in your pocket from...
Yeah, I'm like, I got someone who knows how to make music.
Yeah. So the first plan was to go somewhere else. I think it was somewhere in Europe, and we were going to go do this in Europe. And I'm like, I've still got a tour schedule. I still have a job at the time doing music. But I was like, ooh, yeah, wow. Okay, Lord, maybe you have prepared me all these years for this. Like I thought making music was for me and for exalting myself and getting people to like me. Maybe it never was about me at all. Maybe it was just my recording skills.
Yeah.
It was just the computer and learning how to set up a microphone.
Yeah.
And then that changed. That actually fell through. And I thought, oh, that's a bummer. It fell through. And then it
So we went a little deeper.
it came up again.
If Europe doesn't work, we'll go a little deeper.
It was actually into
the Middle Eastern area.
Into the sandbox.
Yeah.
Let's go into the sandbox and do this. You ready? And I'm like, yes, I'm ready. Got tickets. I'm thinking maybe this will fall through.
Sure.
I've got a couple microphones, cables, computer.
And let's remember, you and I have never done anything together.
Never.
And so you're believing that this guy with this idea isn't just a nutcase.
Yeah.
But he's going to follow through a little bit.
And you're thinking the same thing with me.
I was like, I can't believe he's going to do this. It looks like he might do this. This is great. And if not, we'll record him with our phones. But
Yeah. So I get to said country land. You pick me up with one of the guys that we worked with, and it was a late night at the airport. We came into the, really a safe house. We could say that,
It was.
Stayed in a missionary safe house. And I had been to the Middle East before, to Kuwait and Iraq.
Right.
But once again, that was like the Lord was preparing me. I'd been to Iraq 3 times.
Right.
Why did I do that? Oh, the Lord was getting me in a rhythm for something.
Yeah.
And all these little things started adding up. I was having dreams about the Middle East. I mean, like wildly vivid, the kind of dreams that we talked about this yesterday, the kind of dreams that your brain didn't generate.
Right.
They're dreams.
The Lord's speaking to you.
Very rarely in your life does it happen. Some people more than others, but there are times when you wake up in a cold sweat with chills down your entire body, and you go, what just happened in my dream?
Yeah.
Those kind of dreams about what we were about to do. So we get there, we get to the safe house, and woke up the next morning early, and we walked to a coffee place and got a turkey croissant. Because
That's right.
There is no pork.
By the way, that is important. If you do travel with me, you must go to a coffee place.
Coffee is very important to Travi. Yes, very important. So we go, we kind of get, and it was a beautiful thing. We go to this coffee house and you're like, okay, we will pray. They're saying this low, we will pray, but we're going to say the King, and we're going to keep our eyes open. We're not going to bow our heads. And so
leave our hats on.
We leave your hats on. We're holding our little croissant sandwiches, looking at each other, going, "Isn't the King good? Yeah, isn't the King good? Yes, to the King, to the King." That was that's a beautiful prayer.
Yeah,
if you think about what that means, that's a prayer that was said many times in the book of Acts and during that era in the early church under persecution. Yeah. Keep your eyes open, your head up, fill your heart with rejoicing for the Lord.
Yeah. And he sees.
And he sees.
Yeah.
So we ended up recording 5 different languages, 5 songs, so 25 songs.
Right. Which is posted actually, but I don't want to give the website.
Well, let's not do that. But meanwhile, you and the rest of the team are working on your own things.
Right.
So you said, "Okay, Granger, you good? Okay, we're out." And
well, wait a second. I don't know if you're going to give the details, but he makes his own studio by flipping sofas on edge and shoving these pads on top of making little microphone areas. And I remember walking in thinking, I took pictures of it. I'm like, this is funky. But you got the sound you were looking for. And we had, because of the concrete walls, right? It was just the echo was a problem, and street noise, and you were
hot.
Yeah, it was so hot. I don't think there was any air conditioning in that room. No, we had to turn it off because it was making noise.
The recording is so loud.
So it was just sweating and I remember that.
And I go at one point, I go upstairs, and you guys are teaching pastors.
Right.
You're teaching them to read and to teach the Bible
accurately.
And you guys are kind of sitting in your chairs, and you're going, nope, that's not what the Bible says. No, and they, these guys, and they're from all over the Middle East and India area,
multiple
regions, and they're like, okay, go back to it again. Go back, and I'm like, whoa, this is cool. They go back down and continue recording. So I have a translator, thank goodness. A couple of these musicians cannot speak any English at all.
Right.
But we're wanting to make sure that what they're singing is good.
Yeah, biblical.
So we're constantly going back, checking lyrics, making sure these things add up. And a couple times we're like, well, let's not say it that way. How do you say this? And then translate back. But the musicians were amazing. The singing was beautiful. I learned quickly that my style would be, let's do it and go back and fix mistakes. But we would do it, and they would go, I'd say, let's go back and tell them we're going to listen for mistakes. Tell them.
Yeah.
He says, he didn't make a mistake.
No mistakes.
Okay, cool. So it was such a beautiful thing. I remember there was a moment though when, I don't know if you remember this or not, but one of our singer-songwriters was singing, and he had to take a break, and he wasn't sure if he can come back and finish the project. He was overcome with grief as he was singing these songs.
Yeah.
He was overcome with emotion and heaviness. And he went outside, and he was just kind of standing on the balcony. And the translator comes back and goes, I don't know if we're going to get him. He's
pretty broken.
He's in a broken place. And I said, you mind if I ask what's going on? And he said,
this is a pretty heavy story here.
That he lost his son. And I was like, phew. I said, will you please go tell him that I've also lost a son? He goes, you have? I said, yes. Will you tell him? He goes back out, tells him, looks back at me. And I stood up. We have no words in common.
Right.
I just put my hand, right around the back of his shoulder and neck. And I just looked at him just eye to eye. Our eyes were just glazed over.
Yeah.
There was no words, just.
Yeah.
And he put his hand on me, and suddenly we were brothers.
Yeah.
United in something that was deeper than we could ever imagine. And he came back in.
Yeah.
And we finished the song.
Yeah.
What? It's incredible even talking about this, because I haven't got to talk about these things. Constantly interrupted, by the loudspeakers outside.
Calling for prayer.
The Islamic call for prayer.
Yes. We got to stop now. Got to stop.
Just blaring call for prayer. Constantly woke us up in the morning, and it was all
I used it for a wake up. It's a good time to get up. It's about 4 a.m.
4 a.m. He's calling, and not only one loudspeaker, but they're kind of all the different
mosques.
Little mosques.
All the mosques
going
have
off.
their own caller.
And it just became part of our rhythm, where it was like, I'll say it this way. I should say it this way. It was like the enemy was always right around the corner.
Yeah.
Just going, I'm watching you.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like. So that's
but the
how
worship of God went on.
Yes.
And it has been posted in the places that are safe, and the national churches and the indigenous churches are using it, and they are singing it. And we've even had seminars where we bring in worship leaders and teach them their own songs.
Yes.
Because they've never heard these songs, but they're their songs, and they're songwriters. And so that has occurred. And I have videos of small groups.
Which I've seen.
Yeah. Singing these worship songs in small, secret Christian groups that this guy wrote and that was recorded, and they got off of YouTube. And I'll talk a little bit about the YouTube thing if I can.
Yeah. I mean, security better than I.
Yeah, we were going to give them to them through secret electronic means. And after a while, the people who make the decisions, I'll just say that, the inside people in these countries said, you can't do that anymore. If you show up with these and there is no other place on planet Earth you can get them, they will already know you're a Christian. So they said, and this is where we're at now, the best thing you can do is post them for the whole world. And then if you have them on your device, you could say, I just found this place. I found this and I downloaded this. No, I didn't have a secret meeting with a secret believer from a secret country.
Yeah.
I got it off the internet. It's just right here. Look, I'll show you this place. Now, they may still be beaten, but they're less likely to be tortured to find out who their contacts are.
Yeah. Well, one time I was in Tennessee in an Uber, and I asked the guy where he's from. He's from one of those countries. I asked him what language he speaks. He speaks one of those 5 languages. And I said, oh, you're Muslim? He said, yes. And I said, hi, I have some music. I would love to play for you. Pulled up, and started playing it, and instantly, first of all, he's thinking, how could you possibly know my
language?
My music, my language. Press play. And he's, what? You know my culture. And then I said, do you know what it's saying? And he goes, yes. Yes, I know. What is that? I was like, here, what's your number, man? I'll give you this right now.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this is beautiful.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So then from there, we made a jump into a country. I don't know if we want to say. We don't have to.
I don't know that we should say it.
Let's just not say it. It was just
but it's still in the region.
It's a very hostile.
It's in the region.
We went to a country where you are not supposed to go. We went there.
Yes, and we thought we were being sneaky.
Yeah.
We had a plan, and it was a great plan, and it should work, and we had a lot of professionals involved so that it was a legitimate reason for being there, and we were just kind of doing exploration. Is this something that can fly? Can we start a small business kind of a thing that is legitimate, and then employ underground believers, feed them, and then teach them at the same time?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the plan. Can we do this? We show up, but that's when I realized I was uncovered. At point in time, when we arrived, they were really interested in you. You were the main contact when we arrived. But then at one point at a table, about twice as long as this, or 3 times as long as this, we were sitting down and eating something and drinking something else.
Something we got very sick on later.
Yeah, very sick. And they typed in my hometown. And the second picture of my hometown on their Google Photos was me at the pulpit preaching.
Yeah.
And I just kind of shrunk back, and suddenly I didn't want to talk anymore, because now this looks really bad, really, really bad. And it got, I felt sketchy. I think that we were wise and that we didn't engage, but we had some strange interrogations that occurred after that.
Yes.
You specifically, because I got quieter and quieter, but they kept saying, what exactly do you do?
Yeah, one of the guys who
What do
was
you
like,
do?
You would see him in a movie and he's just that guy. Like,
The guy scares you.
He's a scary guy, man. Mob boss kind of guy. And we had been saying
He was the guy that drove around with machine guns in the back of his truck. But anyways.
Yeah, which we later learned, don't ride in the truck with the machine gun. Ride in the other truck.
Ride in the second truck. We learned don't ride in the truck that's in front with the machine gun.
So they knew that you and the other guy that was with us were investors, business investors, and all that was correct.
That
was all correct. The amount that you were investing was
very
not
small.
We didn't have to say that. And then you talked a lot about ranching and chicken farming.
Yeah.
But you also just knew a lot of information about a lot of different things.
Way too much information about everything.
This mob boss guy at one point at dinner goes, tell me again, what is it you do? Just like that.
Yeah.
And me and the other guy, 2 other guys were like, oh, man.
Red flags went up.
Oh man, this dinner's not going well. That's when we all knew without saying it
that this was bad.
That we can't return to this country like we thought we might.
Not in the plan we had.
We go back, and at the hotel, the American flag, which is flying there, is now flying upside down.
Right.
I took pictures of it. It was not settling. We thought,
Behind the multiple barriers for explosives.
yeah,
So we have to go through to get into the hotel lobby.
yeah, yeah. And it wasn't, no one makes the mistake to fly the American flag upside down.
No.
It's intentional. It was a message.
Oh, well, it was a message because you actually mentioned it to the concierge,
Yes.
and it didn't get fixed.
Yes, I did. For all those people listening right now, I actually said, hey, this might not be a big deal to you, but that's my flag out there and it's upside down. Just wanted to bring it up. And, oh, it is. Oh, yes. We will tell. Tell management. So sorry about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing happened.
Yeah. And then again, didn't get changed. We got out of there. We didn't know. We got back to the airport. We didn't know if we would actually make it back into the host country. But we did. I mean, we stood out.
It was, yeah. I've had a few close calls in my life, and although nothing was openly done, I was not comfortable, spiritually not comfortable, prepared for anything. When we were in the hotels, we didn't talk about, and then we decided this before we went in, there was no conversation about our faith, about the Bible. We didn't open a Bible.
No literature.
We are surveilled the entire time.
We had
There's
burner
someone
phones.
listening.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just, there wasn't any code words. We didn't do anything.
Nope.
We were just what we were because they were watching continuously. But I was pretty happy when we left.
I was very happy. I
I
remember
was like,
it
looks like I'm going home.
I had a Louis L'Amour old cowboy book I was reading. That's as far as exposure as I wanted to get. My phone had like no pictures, just very boring pictures of my dog and things like that. We were fully prepared that we were going to get some kind of interrogation, but we got out of there and then we learned a lot from that trip.
A lot. I learned a lot too.
And that's the first trip we took together. That was crazy.
Was that the first trip?
That was our first trip together, man. I mean, we got
kind of
close. Yeah.
Kind of intense.
If you want to get a hold of me for any reason, go to cameo.com/GrangerSmith. It's a great way to get someone a gift that you don't know what to get. It's a video message from me, basically. You message me and say, hey, can you tell my brother happy birthday? Or can you tell my wife happy anniversary? Or can you give me a word of encouragement or maybe even a prayer? Go to cameo.com/GrangerSmith, fill that out, and it comes right to my phone. I read what you want me to say. I could ad-lib it. I take my phone, put it on selfie mode, shoot a quick video saying, hey, Bob, Cindy wanted me to tell you happy anniversary, and whatever you want me to say. And then I'll send you that video message, and then you give it to Cindy. It's a great little tool. I've been using this for a long time. Cameo.com/GrangerSmith. Have you heard about Yee Yee Fest yet? I need to tell you, it's May 9th and 10th at the Yee Yee Farm. We're going to have a truck show. We're going to have a mud bog, lots of good food. Lots of people from Yee Yee Nation will be there. And I'm even going to do some kind of live podcast. Don't know how that's going to look yet, but we're going to do a live audience, live podcast, answer questions. Going to have Amber there. Most of my team and my brothers will all be there. And, we'll be at the Yee Yee Farm. So you get to come. It's open to the public completely. And you get to come and hang out with us at the Yee Yee Farm. I think it's going to be so much fun. And here's the surprise. Saturday night, May the 10th, I'm actually playing a concert. My full band, all the crew. It will be the only concert we do the entire year. So you don't want to miss this. I mean, this is going to be, if you're part of Yee Yee Nation or you want to be part of Yee Yee Nation, you got to check this out. You go to yeeyeefest.com for all your info. I'm looking at it right now. If you're wondering the price, for the full weekend, it's $79 for a ticket. If you just want to go to one day, like a single pass on Friday, it's $39. And a single pass on Saturday is only $59. So if you want to go to this concert, $59. Kids are cheaper than that. And then there's all kind of like VIP packages, ways to get your truck in there where you could sit on your tailgate of your own truck. It's going to be a really, really good time. I'm so excited about this. Once again, Yee Yee Fest coming May 9th and 10th. Go to yeeyee.com or yeeyeefest.com for more details. We have since traveled to many countries after that. Some we can't mention again, but we have done some crazy work together. Israel twice. We've done that twice.
Well, before you jump onto Israel, let's stay in that country. We have, and you have been a part of this in a big way, brother, we have rescued believers in that country who were being hunted to be executed. Multiple families are currently spread around the world in safe locations because we have helped them to find a way out. And some of their stories are super hair-raising. But that same country, we weren't able to go in. And I'm still in contact with leaders in that country, and we're still helping them. And I can't really tell you the projects because it would reveal the leader. But some of the key leaders have been uncovered, especially at the fall of another country, which you could probably figure it out. There was a removal of American military, but I'm not going to say that name. They helped them. So that country we were in was helping this other country, which is in worse shape.
Which everyone knows what we're talking about.
And yeah,
if you
they
think
do.
About it, yeah.
Yeah, but it's not as easy to search by AI if we don't use the names. So anyways, they got uncovered and had to flee for their own lives. So it just sort of dominoed out. And even currently, your translator is currently in that place where all the mosques were. He's there right now and working hard for the Lord in an amazing way. But I would just say, would you pray for him? He's got a very legitimate reason, and we've applied for asylum in the U.S., but it's not a good environment right now, with all of the illegal stuff that's going on, the immigration and all the response. But he's got a real shot if somebody will actually look at his paperwork. So remember to pray for him. Yeah.
We're talking about the guy that was the translator. That when I said the guy lost his son, and we got really close, the translator and I, and he's a great brother, and he's heavily persecuted in that country because
he cannot return.
Even within the Middle East, those countries are prejudiced against each other, and that's what's going on. He's from another country; they don't like that other country. Yeah. Racism, we don't know much about racism in the U.S.
My goodness.
We think we do.
You want to know racism, go to the Middle East and watch the way they treat each other, Sunnis and Shias and, this clan and that clan and this sect. Yeah. And there is racism, enormous racism. And then I'm really going to go out on a limb, ask the Arabs how they feel about the Africans. And you're like, wow.
Yeah.
There is real racism that occurs.
Yeah. So, there are countries in between that we won't mention, but we have done different things there. But then Israel, we could openly talk about Israel because I've actually filmed that and put that on social media. Another glaring aspect of racism is right there in that country. Oh man,
yeah. There's real ethnic hatred.
Yeah. So we've taken 2 trips together. Both of them were last year. You took a trip, which I have FOMO about, without me recently. But there are multi-layered reasons why we have done those trips to Israel, and one of the reasons that it's a place we could return to is because of the turmoil, the war.
Yeah,
there is a softening in the country of hearts that are more willing to listen.
Yeah, there's some amazing stuff that happens. So having been to Israel a few times prior to our first trip together. We've tried to do, I don't know how much we could talk about because some of what we would like to talk about may not be acceptable to that country.
You lead the conversation.
So we have shared the gospel, absolutely, with people, but I have just been amazed at the softening that occurred. I have one specific incident, which I think I can say, which totally blew me away. And if I don't give any dates, probably no one will get in trouble. But so we're there, and because of the war, everybody's fear of death, Psalm 90:12, teach us to number our days so that we may gain a heart of wisdom.
Yeah.
Right? And in Ecclesiastes 7, it says, I'd rather go to the house of mourning than to the house of feasting, for that is the end of all man, and the living will take it to heart. So death is what creates a softening in your heart. It can create a softening in your heart towards, okay, what happens next?
Yes.
It's that breaking point that we were talking about. That moment you're like, wow, I'm at the bottom. Like literally I could die tomorrow. And so unbelievable. So we're walking up to the Jaffa Gate. It's my favorite story. It may be for the next 20 years because I've tried so hard to share the gospel with Jewish people, and they're hard like rock, like just they've had enough. Well, it's Israel. It's Christian Disneyland. So they're sick of every type of Christian, every strange and odd Christian showing up and doing strange and odd things in their backyard. And they're just sick of it. But we're there, and there's nobody. There isn't a single other anybody. We opened up so many sites. We're like, hey, could we see this?
Amazing.
Like, well, nobody's been here for months. Yeah, we had to bribe one priest with what was it, a peach?
Oranges?
An orange.
Yeah.
From Jericho.
From Jericho.
Yeah. Like, this is the best orange in the world. It's a Jericho orange. And he finally came back, and he almost didn't open, but he did open the caves of Bethlehem for us. But anyways, I digress. So we're at the Jaffa Gate, and we're leaving, and we have these little pins, these little leather pins that we had made that they're very simple, non-Christian. It's got the Star of David with a heart in them, and it's a little lapel pin. And they're really classy. And so we have these, and we're giving them out and praying for people. Can we pray for you? They want us to pray for them. They are open to the Christians praying for them. They're open to a couple of things, but that's one of them. But so we're standing off. You were there, right? We're standing off at the Jaffa Gate, and there's like 20 military people at the Jaffa Gate, and there's a civilian out front going, talking away, and we're just looking at this. Now, there's a lot of military in Jerusalem. This is when rockets were going over, and there was a lot of activity, and there was terrorist attacks in the city, knives, explosions. So last trip, there was explosions when I was there. They blew up 4 buses right where we were. But anyways, so there's military movement, and we come later on to find out that there is a guard change occurring in Jerusalem. And so these are 20 or 25 officers who are overseeing the new recruits who are now going to take Jerusalem proper and guard it. And they're shifting out for the war in Gaza. And so they're getting orientation. So we don't know any of this. And I didn't know there were officers. Here they are all standing there, and we have these pins. And everybody had been so open to let us pray for them. And so we're just kind of standing at a distance. I remember we're all kind of huddled, and we stand out. We are clearly not them. And nobody else is there but us. And they're standing out there, and this woman comes back. And turns out she's the commanding officer. And she comes back, and she says, why are you here? Good English, why are you here? And we tell her, well, we want to pray and let you guys know that you may feel like the whole world's against you, but the Christians are not. We love you. We're praying for you. We want to encourage you. We're praying for your safety and for peace for this land. And she's like, oh, it's wonderful. Do you want to talk to my officers? And I said, this is one of those out on a limb. I said, well, the only thing I really want to talk to your officers about is Jesus. Now, that is not the good plan. But that's just a totally supernatural event. I remember she kind of turns her head sideways and looks at me, and she goes, you want to tell my officers about Jesus? And I'm thinking, that's the end of that.
Yeah.
I said, yeah. She goes, come. And so here we come. We're literally going to go stand at the Jaffa Gate in Jerusalem to 20 officers, and she's just given me permission to tell them about Jesus. She brings him around, and she kind of does a little miniature introduction. And turns out the civilian did not like it. She was some sort of an administrator, was very
I'll tell
unhappy.
that story after, yeah.
Okay.
Because that was my issue.
Very unhappy with the event. So we go around, and I remember the basics of what I shared. It was from Isaiah. I said, I want you to know, first of all, we love you, we're praying for you, and we believe your Bible. We believe your Bible. You don't believe your Bible.
Yeah.
I started quoting Isaiah 53, and I said, who else died for your sins and rose from the dead? And I just began going through the prophecies of Isaiah, which is the irrefutable proof that Jesus is the Messiah. I mean, all the way down to the fact that we can prove that the oldest copy that we have is hundreds of years before Jesus arrives. It wasn't changed.
Yeah. And
Jesus is the Messiah.
It's still on display. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all that to say that, so I told him, I believe your Bible, and it's all true, and I believe all the prophets. And I remember as I was gospeling, some woman, I didn't turn because I didn't want to point her out, because I heard a female voice from this side, and as I was preaching from Isaiah 53 in the Jaffa Gate to 20 officers of the IDF. Unbelievable story. I remember her. I heard this under her breath, Yeshua HaMashiach. And then I said, that's right. Yeshua HaMashiach, which is Hebrew for Jesus the Messiah. Yeah, that's right. And then things start to get a little fall apart at this point, and we give them. I can't tell you what we give. We give them pins and other things because I think the other things are illegal. Yeah. So we give them pins and we pray for them, and then we leave. But now you can tell the rest of the story.
Okay, so when you said I want to tell them about Jesus, and she was like, turned her head. She said yes. There was another lady, the civilian. There was like some kind of administrator and some kind of superior in the situation.
Yeah, she was sort of running it.
She was more like the government of the street. And she was like, you cannot tell, no religion could be talked about. And you started, I turned to her and I was like, so where are you from?
That's right. You totally engaged her.
And she was like, kind of looking around and she was like, I'm from the north. And I was like, tell me about what, I just came from the north. So I'm from Texas, it's very
totally was
terrain.
Just, don't look at the hands.
She was like looking around, looking around my face. And I was thinking, hurry up, Travis, tell him the gospel. Tell him the gospel.
I remember that. Yeah. That's right. You shielded me so I could have that window.
And you had just finished and she said, hey, sir, you cannot say these things to these people.
You cannot say these.
And you're like, oh, yes, ma'am. We won't say anything else.
Yep, I remember that.
There's another moment on that trip. No, it was the second trip we took to Israel. That there's 1,000 stories.
Is this the cucumbers?
It's not the cucumbers. That's an incredible story too. Maybe we should tell that also. Well, you and I could have a podcast every day of the week and for a year and probably still not have enough content or still cover too much content. But there was a moment maybe you're not even thinking of. We found up in the north, there were churches there, and they were almost all bad. So it's fair to say
bad, meaning
all bad.
I was not sure that their pastors were saved.
Exactly. So we go to visit one of these churches. We're looking.
I know.
We're hunting for believers that are leaders. That's what you could say that, right? In a nutshell,
yes.
We're looking for young men.
We want to help them.
We want someone that's
train
a leader
yep.
that we could pull aside and say, hey, we could provide training. We want to support you in your church.
Yeah.
We didn't find this.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate. So we had to go to the ground level, which is fine. But that's what.
Yeah, we couldn't find any leaders in that position, but we did find believers.
That's right. So we had to start at the believer level. But regardless, we were at one of these church leaders. We'll call him a pastor with a very loose term. We're at his house with several of his co-leaders. I guess I don't dare want to say elder in this scenario, but they are in the Christian side of the faith. They're not Jewish. They're not Muslim.
Yeah,
they're proclaiming that they're Christians.
And they have a regular church service.
They have a church service.
Yep.
And we go there, and they are. We're having every house we'd go into, we would usually have some kind of coffee, like Arabic coffee.
Oh, yes.
Were these people Arabic or were they?
They're Arabic.
They're Arabic, yes. So they would have Arabic coffee and so cookies and sweets, things like that. We're sitting around. It's hot, the windows are open, and these guys are just telling us how awesome they are.
Yes.
How awesome the church is. They're going to plant multiple sites. They get multiple countries. And blah, blah, blah. We're so good. We have so many conversions and, all the blah. We're going to build a bigger building. And it had been a long day. We had walked a lot. Our feet were tired. We were hearing this guy tell these Americans how awesome his church was. Maybe so we could give them money or something, which we weren't there to do that anyway with these guys. But maybe they think Westerners, and you're silent. You're not saying a thing. And I'm like, Travis is either about to fall asleep, literally sitting in his chair, taking a nap.
I was praying. I really wanted a word from the Lord for them.
But then I thought, most likely he's up to something and he's praying. Not about, not necessarily for this man, but Travis is more so praying for a word.
Yeah.
In
Lord,
the
what
moment.
do you want to say to this?
Why are we here, God? What are we here for?
Yeah.
And then you go, can I say something? Excuse me, guys, can I say something? And by the way, we have a translator. They're speaking in Arabic, but they also knew English, and there's a translator.
Exactly.
And Travis says, they were like, yes, speak. And he said, will you translate this? And they're like, we could speak English very well, sir. And you go, I'm not talking about, can you translate it into English? Can you translate it into Arabic? And they were like, what's this guy talking about?
And that was mainly because I didn't think the person that you're about to refer to spoke English.
You were right about that. So I'm like on the edge of my seat, like, what? Because I know Travis, man. I'm like, this is about to be funny. Whatever this is going to be good. You know, I've been in a lot of countries at this point, like a lot of really sketchy situations with you. So I'm like, well, this is going to be good. He has the floor. I think you should tell the story. What happened next?
No, I like your storytelling.
Travis says, do you know who Jesus says is the greatest to his disciples? And they're like, and I'm thinking, oh, this is good. Because they're talking about how great they are.
Yeah.
They're battling with who's the best in the room. And Travis says, the one who serves. Is that what you said? What were the one who serves? And he goes, who in this room do you think is the greatest?
Right. That's
All
right.
of a sudden, this sweet little old woman carrying a tray.
Feeding all of us refreshments. The entire time, all these
Cookies,
important people are sitting on these couches, drinking their stuff. She just making sure everything's okay for everyone here.
And when that gets translated back in Arabic, who do you think's the greatest here? She stops, puts her head down. Travis looks right at her. Thank you for loving us, for serving us. She started weeping.
She was broken.
She broke and wept. We come to find out it was her. She had been on her knees every day for these men, for the church, for the community, for the families. It was her.
She held the church together.
She was holding it together. It was by her prayers. She was the one that was broken and had a delight for the Lord. And yet she was the one, you called it out perfectly.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing.
Oh,
They were
her voice, her weeping, and she spoke no English. And it was
Yeah.
a moment for me.
The rest of them looked like they had just swallowed a slug. Yes.
That's true. That is true. And, and then they quickly were like,
we got to go. It's time to go. It's time to go. I got some important ministry to do. But I was able to pray with her.
yes.
Which was really special. But yeah.
And we come to find out that culture, they didn't care about her.
No, that culture doesn't really elevate women.
Mm. It was beautiful. We mentioned it. We got to say the cucumber story. You said
Okay, yeah. Just so let me tell you just the background. You know it, but for everybody who's listening, the background to the Gaza, Lebanon, Iran crisis, and at one point Israel was fighting on 7 fronts, which is pretty crazy. You just think about that. What's happened is there's no tourism, and everybody in Israel lives off of tourism. Everybody is in some ways tied to tourism, and so their economy's been utterly crushed. I would probably relate it to the Great Depression of the U.S.
Yes.
It's that bad. You don't hear about it. Nobody's talking about it. But when you have no income for the country, everybody suffers. And including the people who are in the West Bank, the Palestinians, if you will, a lot of them, a number of them, was it 100,000 or some really a large number have work visas.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so this person gets a work visa in the family. They end up coming over to work in Israel proper. They make a good wage. They bring it back, and they support 3 or 4 or 5 families. One worker, because you make so much better money in Israel proper.
Yes.
They were when the war started, all visas were dropped. So nobody could leave the West Bank to work. Everybody lost their job. So there's no income. I got to be careful. I don't want to make the Palestinian Authority hate my guts, but I'll just say that the Israeli government is giving a stipend. It's a survival stipend to their people. Nobody's doing well, but they're living. They have food. That's probably, they have food, they have electricity. The other side, not so much. Zero, in fact. And so the people inside the West Bank, terrible starvation.
Yeah, it's horrible.
They're starving.
We saw it.
And they're literally could take a rock and throw it over the guard station and hit dirt that if they were there, they'd have enough to eat.
Yeah.
It is so bad. Anyway, so we're in that area and we're just praying with people, and that's about all I'm going to talk about. Praying with people and loving on people. And we're with this woman who is living with her mom and raising her son. No men. We saw that a lot. No men involved in the families.
Yes.
Just women surviving in groups of women surviving in huddles. And we're praying for her, and I just say, I'm just trying to assess, is it as bad as I think it is? Because, they're very stoic, don't want to show, don't want to be ashamed. I mean, they're offering us food, water. I think you drank some of that water. That's probably why you got sick. But anyways, they're offering us that, and we're sitting and talking and praying and hearing their stories. And I said, well, I think I said, do you have enough to eat? And she's looking at me. You remember, she's looking, and she goes, just barely wiggles her head.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't want to say, we're hungry. It's shameful. She just kind of wiggles her head slightly. I said, do you mind if I look? Now that is very American. Nobody except a European, but especially an American, is going to be as uncaring as that. But I did it for a reason.
Yeah.
And it had great benefit. But she can't say no. They're in their culture, she can't say no. So I want to go look, because I'm hearing the suffering's really bad, and I haven't actually seen their kitchens. So we end up going into the kitchen, and I think you came with the camera.
I was with you.
You were running the camera.
Yeah.
I'm like, let's look.
Which I don't think that ever made anything we put out, but it was.
Yeah, because we can't uncover her. So we open up the cupboards, and there's seasonings.
Mm-hmm.
Just seasonings, spices. That's it. We open up the refrigerator, and you want to tell them what we saw?
Just cucumbers that they had grown in their front yard.
Nothing but cucumbers. There wasn't another item in the fridge but cucumbers. And I asked, and that's all they'd been eating for months. They'd been living on cucumbers and spices for months. That was their food. Oh my goodness. I was so broken. And then
well, we met a family that same day, little children about the age of Maverick, and in fact, one was the age of Maverick. And we asked them, it was a father and a mother, and we asked them, when's the last time you had meat?
When was the last time you had meat?
And they said, you said,
a day, a week, a month,
a day, week,
months.
Yeah, you were kind of going on the list, and they're going, no, shaking their head. And it got to like 7-8 months. No meat in 8 months. And we had beef jerky in our bags.
Oh, yeah.
We're like, here's some beef jerky. Here's some,
Please eat some meat.
We gave them, several things. And you said, I want you to gather around your table tonight with this meat. Yeah. Tell them what you said. That was another moment. It was another Travis moment.
I just wanted them to thank God for it. And you remember better than I do.
I think you said something like, gather around the table and you tell your children.
Oh, Jesus provided
meat for us.
You gather around your table and you feed the people at your table and you use this meat and you tell your children, you look at your children and you tell them, Jesus gave us this meat.
And if you have any left over, bring your neighbors in here.
Yeah.
And give them the rest of it.
Yeah. I said, make me a promise. Will you do that? And he said, I will.
He said, I will. And I know he did because the way he looked at you.
I will. He was a little afraid not to. I will. Yeah, that was a beautiful moment. There were so many moments in Israel.
Well, we've been talking an hour. We could probably talk 6 hours.
Has it been an hour?
Yes. Can you believe that?
But we haven't even touched on anything yet.
Well, it's evident we need to do this again. But I want everyone to know about looking up for him. So let me see if I could say this the right way. In the time that you realized you were uncovered and that you couldn't hide as the guy that you were before.
So we went the other direction.
You went the other direction and said, you know what?
Let's be public.
I have a lot of devotions I've written, and you continue to write them. And I'll just speak them on my phone and put them on social media. And it started
I'd never had a
great
Facebook
traction.
account. I'd never had Instagram. I've never had a social media account ever.
Rightly so. Yeah.
Ever.
But people heard truth and they were hungry for it, and your account grew and grew and grew until I reached out. I was like, hey, this is growing at a level that's like significant, unusual.
Yeah. Unusual.
And you're like, we don't know. We
don't
know what that means.
I don't even know what to do.
It's a little.
Do you remember when Amber had to teach me how to make a reel? I'm like, man, this is terrible.
That's funny.
It cuts me off. And then you're like, you don't have. So I would go live. I'd always go live because I wanted to post something more than 90 seconds.
Yeah.
And so everything was live. Every one of them was live. You're like, you don't have to do live every time. You could,
right.
You could just make a post, and that can be like 60 minutes. What?
Yeah.
I don't have to go live.
So go follow Looking Up for
the number 4 him.
Him. Looking Up number 4 him, and you will see Travis, who's I could say his name now, and you'll give a lot of devotions. You'll answer questions.
We do a Thursday night live Bible answer.
Yes, and you also will give updates on occasionally where you're going, or at least that you're going somewhere.
Depends on you.
And you'll have prayer requests for that. What you can do is just go follow, and if you follow Travis, you will at least see him. And
you'll hear the Bible. You'll see a beautiful ranch. Yeah. And yes, you do get some updates on something is happening.
Yeah.
Very significant. Please be in prayer. Those updates do come out to everybody, but you don't know where or when or who or why, because how in the world could you do it? And so, it's a tension and it's a sadness, but I'll say this, and you said this early on when we talked about the whole, oh man, just give it to him. God touches people's hearts. So I don't, maybe I'll like to tell you about this. You probably don't know this, but the second trip, there was some stuff that was done in Israel.
Yeah.
Somebody, based on just of the Instagrams, I didn't even know it because they sent it to a different organization. Somehow they connected me to a different organization. They sent a very large gift. I didn't even know it because I don't have anything to do with those.
Yeah, you can't. It would be corrupting to you.
Yeah. So I didn't know that. But we, by faith, were going in to take care of some things, to help some people we love, some Christians, to bless them. And it was a significant amount. I didn't even know it until, this is really funny, until like 7 months later, I get a direct message from this guy. I don't know this guy. It's just some guy, right? And he's like, did you ever get my gift? I'm like, I don't know. When did you send it? What was it? So now I look really flaky. Or like, he doesn't even have a clue, right? Because it was a significant amount. And I'm like, well, where'd you send it? Conversation. I don't know. Maybe. How'd you get there? And he told me. And then he direct messaged me, it was for this much. And I fell out of my chair. I'm like, I'll go look. I don't know. I still told him, I don't know. I go look, I don't know. And I contacted the people who are our accountants and said, did something like this come in? And they're like, yeah, but it was anonymous. It's got no name attached. It comes from nowhere. I'm like, oh, oh my goodness. So all that I wanted to say was there was no plea for money. There was nothing. There was a guy who was watching this, and he was watching the
that's the way it should be.
He's watching the Insta devotions. He said, that's real.
The Lord pricked his heart.
Yeah, that's real. He didn't send it to the social media. Didn't send it to Looking Up for Him. He sent it a different route. And I was just stunned. And it was one of those things like you had said, the Lord will take care of this.
Yeah.
The Lord will take care of this. Just don't worry about it. Just don't even worry about it. Just be faithful. Put the word out there. And
let me just say, and I'll say this as vague as I can, people didn't only eat cucumbers for a little bit of time after that.
Yeah.
Because of that.
Because
right?
that guy made sure there was more than cucumbers.
Yes, there was more than cucumbers going around when we made that trip.
It was fantastic.
Amen.
And it was just because of this little social media thing that
Looking Up for Him.
Yeah, just between me and you. I know we've got to wrap this up because you got to somehow make this fit into a podcast. I am not for social media. In fact,
I agree.
My kids all had a problem when I started social media. I had a problem when I started. I felt like I was unclean.
Yeah.
But
I don't think people by now after this hour are not thinking anything less of you for doing that.
I was thinking I was, but my kids, they all sat me down. They literally had those, we need to talk, Dad. We need to talk. You have Facebook. And I just want to know, what's going on and how did you come to that conclusion? And just it's okay.
And I hope they're listening. Your sons that I have traveled separately in different countries, apart from each other, and different states of the U.S.
Yeah,
also.
that's true.
Yeah, love those brothers so much, and love you, man. Thank you.
And I love you.
I mean, you're here for crazy circumstances, which we don't have to get in, but you're here at my house, and I just appreciate you and love you, and I'm still that coin in your pocket, you know.
Yeah,
I'm still that guy.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you got a little string on you so I can put you in and then pull you out and use you again. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, man. Appreciate you.
You bet.
Thanks for joining me on the Granger Smith podcast. I appreciate all of you guys. You could help me out by rating this podcast on iTunes. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to this channel, hit that little like button and the notifications bell so that you never miss any time I upload a video. Yee yee.